Hola, hola, bienvenidos una vez más a un show de aquí de Radio Los Originales. Hoy tenemos a 2 invitados especiales, bueno, 3 en total, pero en un momentito se los voy a introducir. Pero el show de hoy va a ser en inglés. Casi no tenemos programas en inglés, pero queremos tomar la oportunidad para hacer este programa en inglés para pues tener un poquito más de variedad. Pero si ustedes nos pueden seguir en Facebook, para ver nuestro radio de hoy, va a estar muy interesante, pero permítanme mostrarles dónde estamos ubicados. Nos pueden encontrar en Facebook como Community Health Coalition for Migrants and Refugees y también en YouTube como CH Coalition for Migrants and Refugees, CHWCMRA. Ahí puede comentar, puede saludarnos, puede hacer preguntas o compartir cualquier experiencia que usted pues quiera compartir durante nuestra transmisión de hoy. También permítanme recordarles que tenemos nuestros radios de la semana. Los lunes con charlas juveniles conmigo, Maricruz Morales. Los martes, los colores de la comunidad con Omar García. Los miércoles, Conexión Latina con Eduardo Garzón. Los jueves, La Fortaleza con Claudio. Y los viernes con Antonio en Voces Unidas. También ya vamos a estar hablando con la doctora Ponce en la próxima semana, va a regresar, así que pues les invitamos a que nos acompañen pues a ver nuestros radios. Estamos siempre en vivo y en directo, así que como les digo, ustedes pueden interactuar en los comentarios para compartir sus experiencias o haciendo cualquier pregunta. Pero bueno, para ya lanzarnos a la plática de hoy, voy a introducir a una persona aquí especial y yo creo que la favorita de la coalición para que me haga compañía en esta charla con nuestros invitados de hoy. Así que démosle la bienvenida a nuestro co-host Omar. Hello, Omar.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias. Gracias por estar aquí hoy acompañándome para hablar con nuestros invitados de hoy. Y como mencioné, hoy nuestra entrevista va a ser en inglés, así que vamos a hacer el cambio ahorita mismo.
Qué nervios. ¿Hablas inglés, Maricruz?
No, pues ahí me la llevo. Pues, si puedo.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to be diving into today's interview. Like I mentioned, it's going to be in English. So for those of you who want to join us and hearing the stories of our guest today, you can join. If you pick Spanish only, you can also join and then just follow up with what you guys know. All right, but to introduce our guest now, let me first introduce you to Dr. Michael Parchman. Dr. Michael Parchman is a member of the board here at the Community Healthcare Coalition and plays a big and important role here on the work that we do. But we're going to be diving into his story a little bit more after we introduce our second guest, Matt Gonzalez. Matt is our deputy director here at the Community Healthcare Coalition, and he's also a member of the board at another organization, which we're also going to be talking very soon about. So welcome, Dr. Parchman and Matt. Would you like to introduce yourselves for those who may not know you?
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Cruz. Thank you, Omar. I'm Dr. Michael Parchman. I am a family physician, retired now, and I've been on the board of this organization since its founding, actually. So over 10 years, I've been serving on the board of directors for this organization. So it's good to meet all of you. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Parchman, for joining us. Matt?
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Matt Gonzalez, and I am the Deputy Director here at the Community Health Worker Coalition. I am also the Board President of Entre Hermanos, a local to Seattle and actually Washington State. It's an organization that focuses on the Latinx community, specifically with HIV, LGBTQ work. Yes. Yeah, and so I'm sorry. And I have been on that board for a little over 2 years, and I have been the board president for about 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Matt. All right, so I think right now we're gonna dive into the questions to just get to know you guys' experiences as board members and what it's like working as part of the organizations that do so much work for the community. So I'm gonna let Omar start with our first question for today.
Gracias, Maricruz. So, welcome everybody. I think we should probably start with the main question, right? Because first things, what is to be a board member of like a nonprofit or a coalition? Because can you guys explain us a little bit what it is? Because we know or we saw like everybody has like different. Because there's also like different titles or positions for each board member. So if you guys can explain that a little bit, and what would it be kind of the function of it? So I would like to start with Dr. Michael Parchman, and for the roles and the rest, I would like to go with Matt.
Sure. So every nonprofit in the state of Washington has to, in order to be an organization, has to be a corporation or a company with the Washington State Secretary of State. So that means that you're officially registered as a nonprofit corporation in the state of Washington. Now, the state of Washington, as almost every state in the United States does, has rules and regulations about being a registered corporation with the state. And one of those rules is you have to have a board for the corporation. And there's good reason for that. Boards have a big responsibility when it comes to a corporation. Primarily accountability in terms of governance. So a board has to be there in order to have some oversight. So to look over what's going on with the organization, the activities of the organization, because when you establish yourself as a corporation, you have to have a mission statement. What is the mission of the organization? And one of the board's primary responsibilities is to make sure that whatever the organization is doing is consistent with its mission, right? So the board, like our board, meets once a month. And the executive director, Dr. Ponce, has to be there. And the board will review what's going on with the coalition and ask Dr. Ponce questions about the activities and all the finances, so the money, and where's the money going, and is all of that consistent with what the stated mission of the organization is? Because if it's not, then you're in trouble, because that was not why you started the organization in the first place. Mm-hmm. So that in a nutshell is kind of the reason for a board. And is accountability and governance and oversight at its basic, foundational level.
Which is, I would say it's more like a request. It has to have it for sure, right?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
It has to be like we say it's kind of like request. Any nonprofit has to be for sure.
A request?
Like a requirement?
Oh, a requirement. Yeah, every nonprofit has a requirement to have a board. Absolutely. Yeah. And so when we when Dr. Ponce started the organization, we had to have, and I think we had originally only 3 people who were on the board when we started. And then we had to come up with what are called bylaws, which are kind of the board regulations. So how many people do you want on your board? How often are you going to meet? What are the responsibilities of the board? A lot of rules regarding what the function of the activities of the board, in terms of what activities the board is going to engage in. So I'll let Matt talk more about that, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe my question was about the roles of the board. So they're both individually the roles that we all play, but then also then the role of like what is the board doing, as Dr. Parchman was saying, and then the goals overall to provide kind of oversight and strategy to make sure that the mission is aligned with what we said it would be, like Dr. Parchman said, but also the fact that everyone on the board plays just a different role in being their own individual person. Ideally, most boards are diverse in both gender, educational background, professional background, and just a multitude of ways so that everyone can bring in their own lived experience, their own kind of personality and vision to the board, which would help make the organization make the organization a more well-rounded, kind of operation. And then there are specific roles on the board, which are kind of board president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. And so a board president provides oversight to the entire board and actually acts as a liaison between the board itself and the organization. Vice president helps support the president, kind of they separate duties as needed. The secretary is the one who would keep notes and keep track of anything that needs to be done during board meetings, and I guess after board meetings as well. Treasurer is the person there to help manage the finance and provide really in-depth assistance on the finances themselves and support and the finance team within the organization, and help provide any guidance that they could provide. And then there are kind of these subcommittees that you could have. You could have one on fundraising. You could have one on, kind of planning. There's this whole multitude of chairs that you could have. And those are just kind of a sub group of people to focus on a specific topic that really plays into the work that's done. And there can be just varies by organization.
That sounds like a lot and a lot of work for sure.
Yes, and I guess one thing that we neither of us said, this typically they're all volunteer positions. So these are things that people do in their free time to be a part of something and to provide support to these organizations.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that I think that's very important what Matt just said about the volunteer nature of the work, because that virtually guarantees you that any member of the board is doing it because they want to be there. They believe in the mission, they believe in the purpose of the organization, and that's why they join the board, is they want to be a part of something important and something that is making the community a better place. So board members typically are passionate about the work of the organization and have very big hearts, corazón grande, for the work, right?
What do I need if I want to become a board member for any nonprofit? Or what would it be like something for specifically which the nonprofits look or search for somebody to join their board members team?
Well, I think the number one thing is what I just said, which is you have to have a passion for the work of the organization. And really that's more important than anything else. In terms of other qualifications, it's nice to have some life experience that is relevant to the organization. So some sort of lived experience that you've done that in the past that is somehow related to what the organization is all about. So you can connect with the organization in that way. And almost every board member we have has some background or some lived experience that in some way helps them intersect or connect with the organization to improve what it's doing. So, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that completely. Really just having an interest and having some connection to the mission and being passionate about it, right? You're going to want to, if you're going to want to volunteer your time, you're going to want to be interested in what you're doing. So it really does take kind of some heart and some connection to the mission itself. But other than that, really, I think most boards are always looking for new board members. And no matter who you are or what you do, where you work, you can always play an integral role in an organization. So I would say don't let that limit you. You don't have to be from anywhere special or anywhere specific, and you can just bring yourself to it. And I honestly think really just asking if you are interested in an organization and you really appreciate the work that you're doing and it's something that you think you might want to do, I would say just reach out and ask someone who works there, and they would get you in contact with them or with someone on the board or someone who knows about it. And then, if there's not an opening now, there may be an opening or it couldn't be a good fit, whatever happens. But I would say just ask and don't be afraid to just show interest in any organization you're interested in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'd say it's hard for us to recruit board members. And I don't know what Matt's experience has been with Entre Hermanos, but we've gone up and down in terms of numbers of board members. Like I said, when we started, we had 3, and then we were up to 5, and then we went back down to, I think we had 2 at one point, and now we're back up to 7, but we're always recruiting. The board term is 3 years, and so we ask people if they want to be on the board to make a commitment to serving for 3 years. And at the end of 3 years, you can decide that's enough, I've made my contribution, or you can say, yeah, I'll serve for another 3 years.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And then just kind of expanding a little bit more on that, I want to ask each of you, how do you got to the place where you are now as a board member? Or like, what's your story? Like, how do you got to be a board member of the organizations you guys are? I mean, I know Dr. Parchman talked a little bit about it when he introduced himself, but just a little bit more on that.
Matt, why don't you go first?
Okay, absolutely. So like I was saying earlier, I am the board president of Entre Hermanos, which is a Seattle-based organization focused on the Latinx community, specifically the LGBTQ community as well, providing resources and housing, legal services, healthcare coordination, many things. So how did I come to be on the board? I used to work for a funder, and we had a wonderful relationship with the University of Washington, and they had asked me, they said, hey, Matt, we heard about this awesome organization. Would you please be interested in sponsoring us and having us go? And it was a group called Identity out of UW, and it was LGBTQ dental students that had a huge interest in serving their community, and they found Entre Hermanos and they brought it to me. And it's this whole thing where I went and I started going year after year. We started taking them and going and just really seeing the amazing work that Entre Hermanos does year over year, and how fun and interesting the organization and the events are. At some point I said, I think it's time. I want to be involved. I want to do something more. I myself am a member of the community, and I said, if in my work and my position in life, if I can be a help and really lift up the work that they're doing, I would love to do that. And so really all I did was ask. I asked a board member that was there and said, hey, I'd be interested in getting involved. What do I have to do next? And really that was it. I mean, kind of have like a little interview process and whatnot. And then that was about it.
So my story is fairly short, which is the executive director, the person who founded the organization, Dr. Bonze, is my wife. And so I almost had no choice but to be a member of the board from the very start of the organization. I mean, I could have said no, right? And I've never stepped down from the board. I've always, renewed my 3-year commitment. I do think it's time for me to step down from the board after 10 years or more. And I'm hoping to do that soon. But every time I try to do that, something else comes up, like, oh my gosh, the person who was going to be the president of the board unexpectedly had a family emergency. I had to step into that role. Or like now, I'm the treasurer. We just finished our first full audit of the organization, which turned out to be a lot of work for me as the treasurer of the organization. And thankfully, we came through the audit with flying colors, and everything looks really good. So that's my backstory. I mean, my ultimate backstory is, for 35, 40 years, I was a family physician, largely working in underserved communities. So a lot of my clinical work was in federally qualified health centers or lookalikes, places that looked a lot like a federally qualified health center. So the population, the patients that I took care of were largely underserved, and spent most of my life actually in university settings teaching medical students. And so I have an academic background, developing programs, developing curriculum, and training people, educating people. So that's how I got here.
I think one of the things that you guys didn't mention, it's also to connect or have any sort of trust with the community. Like Dr. Michael says, he's been like a doctor like for a long time. He now didn't work. He's retired right now, but it's always for like people, anybody to feel like very comfortable next to the doctor, right? And now, so that's why Dr. Parchman transmits to our community or the community for the coalition. And same with Matt. So Matt's like, well, I'm a member of the community. So, and of course, people who with their hermano serve too, feel like identified and secure and very trust with them. So this is one of the third things that you guys have for each nonprofit or coalition that you guys represented. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out. That really it speaks to what Dr. Parchman was saying. You have to have some connection or some interest in what you're in the organization and what they are doing to really make it meaningful. But yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that experience on how you got to be a board member. I think we're going to some educational videos, but when we come back, I want to talk about a little bit about something you've done on the board that made you go like, oh, wow, I actually helped make that happen. So I'm going to let you guys think for a little bit while we go to some educational videos, and we'll be right back.
Awesome. Thank you.
Washington enfrenta una crisis de opioides sin precedentes. Cada día, más personas están perdiendo la vida debido al aumento de sobredosis. Las muertes por sobredosis han aumentado un 50% en los últimos años. El fentanilo, un opioide sintético, es el principal responsable. Esta crisis afecta a todos en nuestra comunidad, ya sea a los jóvenes, adultos y familias. La falta de tratamiento a este problema agrava la situación. La naloxona puede salvar vidas al prevenir una sobredosis, y el estado de Washington ha ampliado su distribución gratuita. Si conoces a alguien en riesgo, busca ayuda. Juntos podemos enfrentar esta crisis.
Do you know what are two main greenhouse gases affecting our Earth? One of the first main one is methane. The other main greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide, mostly known as CO2, which is an important heat-trapping gas, or greenhouse gas, that comes from the extraction and burning of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and natural gas, forest fires, and natural processes such as volcano eruptions. Using gasoline to drive a car, coal to heat a building, clearing land, cutting forests can produce CO2. Climate change is a time bomb that can explode at any moment and affect the whole planet, so do your part and learn about what harms our Earth.
Este mensaje es traído a ti gracias al Community Health Worker Coalition for Migrants and Refugees en colaboración con la Oficina de Sostenibilidad y Medio Ambiente.
Okay, we are back, and then I want you guys now that you have some time to think about that question to tell us a little bit more about that. What's something you've done on the board that made you go like, wow, I made that happen, or I helped that. I helped make that happen. Whoever wants to go first. Let's start with Matt.
Okay, I can go first. One thing that I did as being a member of the board was actually help hire a new executive director. The entire board was a part of that process, and we actually were the ones managing that process. And choosing an executive director for an organization that you are very passionate about is a big deal. It is a heavy weight to bear, and it was great that we were all able to do it together. We had some assistance from another board member's operational staff, and it made things run much smoother. But really taking the time to figure out who everyone is and what they're about, and the qualifications are one thing, but you want to make sure that they're a good fit and that they're going to be the right person to take the organization to the next level, into their next era. And that was quite a bit of work, and it was quite extensive. But in the end, I think we did a really great job, and they have an amazing executive director, Edgar Longoria. And so, yeah, that was just an interesting thing to be a part of, especially when it was something that I never thought myself, like I would be a part of something like that, and didn't really know what that meant at the time. So that was really cool to be a part of that.
Well, yeah, of course. Hiring someone for that role is really important, especially when it's an organization that works with the community.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very important stuff. So thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Because you're contributing not only here at our organization, but also Entre Hermanos, and I'm sure your work is going beyond these two organizations. So thank you
so much.
Dr. Parchment.
It's what I mentioned earlier about being the treasurer and helping us get through our first audit. That is huge, and it's in the background, and almost no one is aware of it.
Yeah.
But why it's important is because when you get a glowing audit report from the auditor about your finances, and you can share that report with funders, that means they go, oh, this is an organization we can trust. Let's give them some funding to do X, Y, Z, right? Mm-hmm. So it really strengthens the sustainability of the organization to have completed a full financial audit. And it was a lot of work. And I worked very closely with our current bookkeeper to do the audit. We got outside help from a consulting agency to help us with our books, or the accounts that we have, to clean them up and to make sure that everything was accounted for, and this money shows up here and this money shows up here, and it all looks, there's no missing fund, no missing money anywhere, And actually, I'll tell you a funny story. So near the end of the audit, they had this one last request. They said, we seem to be missing some money. There's this fairly large amount of funds that we can't find anywhere in your books. And we went, well, what is that? How could that be? And we went, and oh my gosh, it turns out that the last check that was supposed to be received for this fairly significant project we were doing, never arrived.
Mm-hmm.
And they owed us like, it was like 5 digits, right, of money for the project, and the project had already ended. And so we were like, we're in the hole for this project, big time financial hole. So so the audit kind of helped us recover some money that we didn't know we were missing. And the audit also said, okay, you need to change your accounting practices so that doesn't happen again. And so the audit said, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to change your books. I'm a nerd, and that was fun. So.
It was fun for sure. Yeah, I remember that day. So, well, as you guys have like board members, like right now those days, I will probably say it would be the same because it's like it looks like it's the same for everybody around here. But what do you guys think? Which is the biggest challenges for uh, the migrant community and for the LGBTQ plus community and for both of them mixed it because of course there's like migrants and refugees and farmer workers who are part of the LGBTQ plus
Yeah.
and same for the LGBTQ community. So what do you guys think? It is the biggest challenge right now.
Matt, you go first.
Okay. Wow. Well, this is a big question, and I try not to give too big of an answer. I think as we most of us know at this point is the current administration is not really interested in supporting either community, either organization, and is really looking to kind of pull back on any funding that exists or was potentially going to happen, or they're really just kind of pulling back on all of the resources that are out there for most organizations, regardless of your focus. And I think that's the biggest concern right now is that the possibility of losing resources to serve the community we're trying to serve. We both organizations serve extremely vulnerable communities who are in need of all the help they can get. And it really plays a large role in their health, in their wellness, in their day-to-day lives. And so I would say that's the biggest concern is really just the funding situation. And then I guess what comes with that is the planning on what's going to happen if that funding does or when it goes away. So that's probably the toughest thing right now.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I think Matt's right. But I would just say it is a big question, and I think a bigger answer is the biggest challenge right now is fear. Because that's what the power structure right now wants to create. They want to create fear. And they use that fear to have adverse consequences for communities like the one we serve and for organizations like ours. And so fear causes chronic stress, and chronic stress causes mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. And so the biggest challenge for this organization, I think, is resilience. How do we create emotional resilience and capacities so that people like the ones who I'm looking at right now on this screen don't give up, don't burn out, right? We need to find ways to support each other emotionally, psychologically, mentally, and make sure that we are taking care of each other. Because that's the way you overcome fear. Fear isolates, and that's the opposite of what we should be doing right now, right? We should be connecting. And that's why this radio show, for example, is so important.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the work that Mary Cruz is doing with her youth is so important. Or Omar, your communications work is critical, right? Because, and Matt, your operations work as Deputy Director of Operations and connecting people with resources and finding resources for people is huge right now, because that's how we fight fear, and make our communities, make it possible for our communities that we serve to also be healthy. And I just don't think we can talk enough about that. So for me, that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, each of the roles we have and all the work that we do, even if it's small, even if it's a video, I believe that will always impact at least one person. And also roles like the ones you guys have at this nonprofits community, especially I feel like with groups that are being so impacted by the current times we are in now. We thank you so much for taking the role to be in these organizations that take the time to work with our communities, the LGBTQ plus community and the Latino community, the migrants and refugees, farm workers who are being greatly impacted. And just to kind of expand a little bit on that, and then I know obviously the impact that of the work that we do is always the things that keep us going, keep us motivated to stay in these roles. I just want you guys to share a little bit, I don't know, a story where you guys were like, oh, this is why I do the work I do, whether it was an experience that you yourself experienced or something that you saw from someone that benefits from one of the organizations that you guys are in.
Yeah, I can actually share a story. It's from my work at Entre Hermanos. Um, I was at a social event with them, and somebody there was a client, and the client was saying how one of the staff members was their closest and only friend here in the area, and that they found so much peace and care and friendship in this person, and it was so amazing to hear that just in and of itself, but then to also hear that the reason that the client is here is because they were facing violence in their country from their family, from everyone they knew. And so for them to leave their home, to find themselves in the Seattle area, and then to find Entre Hermanos and to find a staff member who is now their closest friend here and who can help them, navigate the ways of the US is just so amazing. And it made me cry at the time because it was just so amazing to really see firsthand and hear firsthand from a client why the work is so important. And that wasn't even their intention. I would just say, oh, how did you connect with Entre Hermanos? And then, I mean, our conversation just went on and on, but that was ultimately just something that an experience that I had that really just brought it home for me and made me realize like, this is where I should be. And I should really keep fighting for these people because they need all the help they can get. And I'm so lucky to be where I'm at and in the spaces I'm at to be able to provide that help and support and really making sure that everyone who is a client there has the opportunity like this person did.
Yeah, it's definitely amazing the stories that we hear, especially coming from the work that we do, which is nonprofit, helping the community. So actually, also after Dr. Parchman, I want Omar and I to also take time to share like a story, just to highlight the importance of the work that we do here.
Absolutely.
So, Dr. Parchman.
Well, I was going to share the story about the breakfast graduation for Commandant de Juntos, but I suspect Mary Cruz wants to tell that story too. So
go ahead. I have another story.
Oh, you have another story. Okay.
Related to that, but yeah, no worries.
Yeah. So at the conclusion of a program around maternal mental health. So a common condition after you deliver a child, if you're pregnant, you have a delivery, is called perinatal or postnatal depression. And it's very common. It's probably the most common complication of pregnancy, but it's rarely recognized. And it has adverse impacts, of course, on the mom, but also on the infant in terms of the child, in terms of the maternal infant bonding and the support the child receives. So the program ended, and it was a fantastic program. Mary Cruz can talk about it, but it consisted of workshops and then peer support groups for the women to gather and share their stories and support each other. But the graduation breakfast at the end of it, I think almost everyone who participated attended, or a large number did. And they brought some of their children with them, their infants. But the stories they told about how how this experience opened their eyes and made it possible for them to recover and to move on with their life. And in some cases, they talked about how it saved their marriage, and it made it possible for them to care for their children better. That they didn't know what was going on with them until they learned about this condition, and then the support they received from the support groups and the resources that we provided through community navigation. And it was just it was hard not to cry when you listen to the stories that people were telling about how it impacted their life.
Yeah, like I keep saying, the work that we do is so important, especially when you see like what effects it actually has on the community. And just to kind of like relate it obviously to the same program, I want to share my story. I think the most impactful right now, I mean, there has been a lot of moments, but I guess the most recent is for a Caminando Juntos program, which Dr. Michael talked about. I mean, we started a new one this year, or like a continuation with a new group. And there's this lady in one of her groups. She has cancer, I believe, and she had a relapse or something. And in one of our support groups, she was sharing from like the hospital bed that she had a relapse and that she was obviously not feeling so well. But it just comes to show the impact. Like while being at a hospital bed, she still made the effort to join the group because it just shows how much it helps her and like other people, and like how much of an impact it's making on the community that they need these services. And that it's just it helps them. Like she made an effort, even though it could have been like the last thing on her head to like join a group online. She still made the time because it just shows how much of a positive impact it's causing on the community. Omar, what's your story?
My story. Well, I have so many because I have the chance or the opportunity to kind of participate in like most of the programs except for Caminando Juntos, right? Because I'm not expecting any baby yet. I keep doing my homework, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
Um, either from workshops or people from pesticides see the impact, the knowledge that we provide to them through this all these workshops, oral health. So it's like Agripina, she lost like 20 something pounds, just like reducing the increasing the water, and I mean pretty much everything. Most of the things that we do, each of them give you like something. But recently, the one who's the most like kind of like mark right now, it's like when 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, Dr. Eliana and I, we went to pick up some donations on Aberdeen and drive to Yakima, and we did that in just one day, and it was like 8 hours driving. It was like non-stopping, but it was like super worth it when we got there. When we have like all the donations for the people who participate on our workshops or just people from the field, the farmer workers, which Yakima and everywhere else here, right? It has a lot of needs, but especially like the minority population. I think it was the one who was like on my top two, probably. I wouldn't say that. Yeah, because it was great. It was super great experience. See, like all the work we do, and then all the satisfaction for all the people who were attended down there, and of course the CHWs down there who've been like helping us. It was great.
Yeah, definitely a lot of really cool stories that we see ourselves or that we hear not only from these organizations but other organizations that are dedicated to help the community. So definitely worth the job that we do, the time that we put into doing these kind of jobs. But I know we're getting almost near to the time to finish the program, but I want to let Omar ask maybe the last question to just kind of close off the conversation
Me
today.
the last question.
You're the last question.
Um. Okay. Um. What would it be for any board member a not perfect, but like a dream collaboration? We're gonna have to say names for the identities or whatever, but what would it be like?
I I think I'm hearing the question, so I think I'm going to answer it, and I think this will work. I'm going to say like a dream collaboration. I would say it would be working collaborative with the staff to really be able to connect with the work that they're doing in any way that we can be helpful, right? Um, we are, like I said, we all each have our own different backgrounds and areas of expertise. And I think if we could collaborate actually with the staff and help, move their work along or help them think of it in a different way, I think that would be a dream collaboration. You may have meant externally, but I think it would be, for me, it would be more um, interesting to me and more special to me would be to collaborate internally.
For me, I want to go back to the original conversation we're having, which is what is a board and what is the function of a board? And for me, my dream is that we have a board that is more engaged in the projects individually and the work that we do. A board that is more hands-on, so the board members feel like they have an opportunity to not just meet once a month, but in between meetings, they can contribute to a specific program or project in a small way, and just a little bit, right? Doesn't have to be a lot because they're all volunteers, right? I mean, they have full-time jobs, most of them, right? And so I don't think we've worked hard enough at creating those small bite-sized opportunities for board members to contribute to specific projects, because the board doesn't know what to do, what to offer, because they don't understand oftentimes the details of a project well enough to say, "Oh, I could help out with that," right? So that for me is my dream: is that there be more collaboration between the board and the project coordinators and contributing to specific projects in a tangible way.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for those great answers. To be honest, I think yeah, both of them were like perfect for me to hear. To be honest, so it was great. Thank you so much. And like Maricruz mentioned, right, we're almost uh, ended up this show today, but we're not gonna forget about our listeners and the people who share their comments with us. So here we have Mariloli, which she says good afternoon. Um, how do you say that,
Guest of
Maricruz?
honor.
Guest of honor. Thanks for the info. Yeah. And he's La Doctora Maria Eliana Ponce. She's like, I'm an honor to work with Matt and Dr. Parchman, and they are such two wonderful professional people. are totally agree.
But thank you, Amar, for sharing those comments. And if you guys have any more comments or have a chance to look at the in podcast today or the show later on today, you guys can still comment. But thank you guys so much for joining us today, for sharing your stories, your experiences. And again, this is all obviously to highlight the important work that nonprofits do with the community, especially in these times. I think each and every role in nonprofits it's important. But obviously, you guys are very active, contribute a lot. So we thank you guys for your work that you guys do. And we hope to have you guys back in another radio show to share more about the work. I feel like we could do a whole radio show just talking about different experiences
Yeah.
that we have heard or that like different stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys next time.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you everyone. We'll see you tomorrow in tomorrow's radio show from 1:30 to 2:30.
Thank you.